They rise from the underbelly of the industrial city in decay. And what surface similarities there are between these kids and any kids you've encountered would vanish if you track them back into their home neighborhoods.
The neighborhood is New York's Upper West Side, on the edge of Harlem. The kids are students at Booker T. Washington Junior High. Their test scores fail to meet most of New York City's minimum standards for education. But one teacher here is not concerned about test scores.
There are a lot of very fine first-rate minds in here, but by my experience in this building, none of you have ever been taught the tools by which your mind can work easier on the information that you get from the outside world.
John Gatto teaches 8th graders. Though he's been teaching in New York City schools for 28 years, he doesn't like schools, grades, or classroom tests. He's a different kind of educator.
We concentrate on ideas and the structure of how people think. So memorizing things and writing it down on the test never happens in here at all. It doesn't happen once. You may have tests, but they won't have anything to do with paper and pencil. And just remember, a few minutes ago I said the play Julius Caesar is one of the important works of literature in the Western world. But if you don't remember a thing about Julius Caesar, and you begin to understand how to use these tools, you will have taken a giant step forward to being a powerful, independent human being. Let's very quickly... I came as an Ivy League graduate to grace the hallways of these shabby institutions, and then I was going to pass on and make a fortune somewhere else there. What I discovered was, in spite of myself, that from the unlikeliest raw material, if I was willing to listen, there would come this sharp flash of insight that was unmistakably genius. It would only come once, maybe only once in the whole year, maybe once in a month from one kid. If the most important part of the play isn't in the long scenes, then Shakespeare was a bum as a playwright.
He teaches us the curriculum, what we need to pass the grade, then what he'll think that we'll need later in our lives.
Gatto thinks a lot about the rest of their lives and how to prepare them for it. What they learn in school, he says, has little to do with life, so grades and academic tests cannot measure their ability to succeed.
The paper and pencil tests are, by themselves, some Frankenstein monster we've created. There's no complex task that will allow itself to be reduced to the particles of fill-ins or multiple choice or true-false questions. None. He looks his friend in the eye and he says, "And you too, Brutus?" This is it in Latin. I don't teach the kids that education's bad. I say that schooling's bad. Education is a personal thing. You develop your powers and your singularity to the utmost. But schooling is not education. Schooling's an attempt to write the one right way for everybody. And in that sense, it's an evil thing because there's infinite variation in humanity. Confining people in rooms and monitoring every minute of their lives in those rooms couldn't possibly fit into any definition of education that's come from any corner of the world. None. I'm going to give you each a copy of this thing.
Gatto works hard finding ways to get students out of school. He teaches in the classroom because he has to. But his real curriculum is a combination of independent study, class field projects, community service, and apprenticeships. Because he says only in real-life experiences can students teach themselves and test themselves.
You can't really be taught. You got to teach yourself. He can only open the door for you. And you gotta learn what you want to learn. That's how it should be.
What would you personally expect to get out of studying independently? What would you be out to get for yourself? You would be your own teacher, and the curriculum would be a curriculum you write yourself.
In those 37 weeks, I would try to use it to get to know what I like to study and time to myself to know who I am and what I like to do with my future.
Every great system of philosophy this world has ever known has ultimately come down to self-knowledge as the key to the good life. Self-knowledge requires large periods of privacy, time spent testing who you are and what your limits are. This can't take place while someone's filling your time with orders or tests or wonderful activities. So I'm really trying to hand them back their lives, and I'm trying to make myself available to them as a resource. All you need to do to get treated with respect by anyone in the city who's really worth spending time with is to show by your attitude that you're serious about your work. You don't have to show.
Gatto is giving these 13-year-olds license to spend every Friday out of school. The student, a parent or guardian, and Gatto sign a contract that explains why the student is not in school.
All right,
To do independent study, the students have to agree to several conditions.
Okay, look at number 3. That I will write a brief account of each independent day's work and events. I don't want a paper, I don't want a book. I basically want a little diary entry saying, here's what I tried to pull off today and whether it worked or not. The best projects are ones where 19 out of 20 things don't work because you're really putting yourself at risk. You're going for some big picture that you guess might exist, and the 20th one that scores for you makes all the other 19 worthwhile. Okay, now if you agree to those 4 conditions in the middle of the page, sign your names right now and date it. And if you don't agree, talk to me about any one of these that you don't have a question about, that you may have a question about.
Okay, so how about if you just want to think about it a little more?
You can take 2 or 3 sessions to think about it. One of the worst things about these schools is they don't ever give kids time, private time, to think about what they want to do. I don't know of another. I measure the success the same way you or the world would measure the success, by their performance. The truth is, I believe the word adolescence, teenage, these are junk words. Anything that goes on in the world of any sophistication is accessible to a 13-year-old mind.
Aisha and Nubia, this is Joanne. Joanne's going to show you.
Here, these 13-year-olds are learning freight consolidation, how merchandise moves through the company's warehouse.
Okay. So you go and you ask any questions you want. Okay.
In that school, we're the only kids with resumes in, the 8th grade now. And I don't think, and Mr. Gatto lets us out. He don't just keep us bundled up. He don't tell us we got to do this, we got to do that. He let us pick our own subjects and everything else. I started learning stuff that I never learned before.
While some of Gatto's students do apprenticeships on Fridays, others do community service. Today, for example, in a local soup kitchen.
We've turned our children into parasites. That's an ugly word, but it's absolutely true. By reserving them into schoolrooms and having them think that they have nothing to give back to the world at all for 18 years. Volunteer service teaches you not to be a parasite. It gives you hands-on experience with compassion. It also gives you something that kids can't get any other way, at least most kids can't get any other way. It gives you real responsibility. To do your homework is a fake responsibility.
I like that he teaches us useful things and not just writing notes on the board that we just copy and it's just wasting our time.
I would test whether they can be responsible by giving them a responsibility. For example, running the homeless soup kitchen, which none of my kids do, and if in fact they can do that without fear, contempt, or mockery of the lives that are more unfortunate than their own, then what they've proven is that they can accept responsibility responsibly.
Y'all need anything else?
Doing this, Gatto says, is far more important than passing any test in a classroom. For World Monitor, I'm Ann Collier in New York City.
Sit down and wait.
I don't think we'll get rid of schools anytime soon, certainly not in my lifetime, but if we're going to change what's rapidly becoming a disaster of ignorance, we need to realize that the institution schools very well, but it does not educate. That's inherent in the design of the thing. It's not the fault of bad teachers or too little money spent. It's just impossible for education and schooling to be the same thing. John Taylor Gatto.